Heather Murdoch.
Good morning and welcome to Love, Hope, and Faith. My name is Heather Murdoch and I'm so delighted you've joined me today. As you know, if you've watched the show before, I love Wednesdays because this is the day that I get to glorify God through this amazing TV ministry. And Love, Hope, and Faith is definitely more than a TV show in my mind. I feel like it's a ministry that God's given me, and I'm so honored and blessed to be a part of this and to be sharing with you every week the hope that is in Jesus Christ. And I have a passion for our Lord Jesus. He's done so many amazing things in my life, and he's healed so many hurts that I've held on to in my life, and he's still doing a work in me, because as his word says, he is faithful to complete the work he has started. And if you have never tuned into the show before, you're in for a real treat today. I have just an amazing guest who's going to share his heart. But before I get to that, I want to remind you how you can view other episodes of Love, Hope, and Faith, because there have been some fabulous guests and some great testimonies. And our show is streaming on TSPNTV.com. It's also, you can also click on TV shows and click on Love, Hope, and Faith and catch old episodes, as well as you can catch us on YouTube on the TSPNTV.com, or I'm sorry, TSPN TV YouTube channel and click on the shows there. You can also go to heathermurdoch.com, which is my website where I post not all the shows, but the best ones, and they're all great though. And this morning, as I had my God time, I was reflecting on every morning I do Coffee with Jesus, I call it, and that's my private time just to be with him and pray and read scripture, and I just love it. I love it so much. I cannot get enough of God's word. And today I'm reading, the last couple of months I've been reading in the Psalms. And I want to read to you. I had this thought this morning. I asked the Lord, what is my assignment today? And, every day he has an assignment for us. And whether it's just to rest in his presence, or whether it's to minister to someone, to love on someone, but every day he has something for us. Isn't it amazing to imagine that the God of the whole universe knows us so intimately, that he has work for us to do, that he's created just for us and equipped us to do? And this morning I was reading, or not this morning, but reading this week in Psalm 101:6, and it says, "My eyes will be on the faithful in the land, that they may dwell with me. He whose walk is blameless will minister to me." And, I just thought about the fact that the Lord says we minister to him. That's so awesome to think that not only does he bless us, but we bless him when we are connected to him, when we are seeking him with all our hearts. And, you think about the fruit of the Spirit and the blessings that can be within us, like peace and joy and kindness and love and gentleness. And I always think I want more of that in my life. I want more joy, more peace, more kindness, more love. And the way to have that is to remain in the vine, and he is the vine. And so I just wanted to share that with you this morning. I was really blessed by the thought that I have an assignment today. And we have an assignment today also with my friend Josh. Hi, Josh. That was a quick little intro there. This is Josh Belmont, and many of you may recognize Josh because you work at... Is it okay to say the store? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so you've been there how many years?
8 years now in September, yes.
Okay, good. And you also go to my church, the Church of the Nazarene.
I do indeed, yes.
Or maybe it's your church.
It is my church.
It's our church.
Yeah.
Good. And it's so interesting. I wanted to share with everybody how today you came to be my guest. I actually I was looking for a guest for today's spot and having a little trouble getting the spot filled. And a while back, maybe like a month ago, my friend Candy had sent me a text saying, "You've got to get this kid on your show. He's got so much vision and passion. He's an amazing kid." And I'm like, "Well, what's his name?" And she goes, "Josh Belmont." And I said, "Well, I know Josh because we go to the same church and shop at the store." And we talked a little bit because you went on a mission trip a year or so ago.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Peru, and I was there for 3 weeks. We built 3 churches down there out of styrofoam blocks, actually.
What? Really? Oh, I didn't know you did
it was
that.
really cool. I was the only person from California that went, so I didn't know anybody when I went down there.
That's a huge out of the comfort zone.
Oh yeah. Not to mention I don't speak Spanish. But,
yeah.
It's a beautiful country, but the people there, they're so down to earth, and they have such a passion for God down there. And it's that whole. It seems like the less that you have, the more that God blesses you with that joy and that just this passion for Him. And
That's kind of the joy and the peace and the love and the gentleness. Yeah,
and there's such
yeah.
great people down there, friends that I still keep in contact with, and you know, it was an eye-opening experience. So when you go to another country, your view of the world gets expanded,
Yes.
and you start to see that the rest of the world isn't like America, and that you know that God was working universally across all cultures and languages, and that the language of love is universal.
Yes, amen.
And that even people who can't speak any language understand that language.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it was a very just blessed time to be there, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
and I want to hear more about it. And I remember, like I said, when you came back, we were going to have you on my show, but a lot of times passed. But I feel like it's God's timing now, because you have a lot of other things going on in your life that you're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to take it back to the beginning and get to know who you are first before we talk about that. So who are you? I mean, how did you become a believer? Were you raised in a Christian home? All those things. What's the scoop?
Well, yes, I was raised in a Christian home, but I didn't really have a faith of my own until about my senior year in high school. I mean, I knew of Jesus, and I kind of followed him sometimes half-heartedly, but it really was my senior year of high school, and I went through a very difficult time. Basically, I guess you'd say a failed relationship that brought me to my lowest point. And God has a way of doing that, to kind of shake you up and go, hey, what's important in your life?
Yeah.
And
amen.
I had to lean on him, because I couldn't make it through by myself. I was suffering from periodic depression, and at that point, that's where my faith started. I was like, I'm going to build my life upon God and make him the number one thing in my life. And I've never regretted that.
Yeah.
He has changed me so much. I used to be such a selfish person, and believe it or not, I was a bully all through my youth.
Really? I can imagine that.
Yeah,
Wow.
physically and emotionally and verbally abuse other people. And
Wow, I didn't know that. You're so kind.
well, that's God. He
Yeah.
changes. It changes everything. He, as that passage says, he makes all things new.
Exactly.
And so after that,
And I want to just
Yeah.
touch on that for a second. I just recently read a really amazing article about bitterness and resentment and where it comes from. And it pointed out in the article, as we know this, that people that do that, what you're talking about, they're hurting inside. And they're hurting inside, and so that then starts to build a callus around the heart, and then they in turn stop caring about other people's feelings because they feel like no one cares about theirs. Does that make sense?
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was very passionate about, excuse me, weather and spinning objects, and of course spinning weather. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. Excuse me. But nobody else really understood me on that.
You're talking about tornadoes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially tornadoes.
Yeah.
And so they didn't really understand me, so I felt like I wasn't accepted, and so I took out my, I guess to say, my feelings on other people to kind of try to get that respect from them. And
Yeah.
of course it doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
Because in the inside I felt rejected by everybody. So, there's truth to that, and that's where it all stems from. But when you come to Jesus, he gives you your identity.
Yes.
And
Amen.
then so your identity is grounded in him, who's unchangeable. And as a child of God, it's like there's no greater identity you could have.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
you know who you are, and it's very exciting, definitely.
So, they say that hurting people hurt people, and that kind of fits that. So do you, I didn't know about this whole bully thing, which is cool. I love to hear these. I don't love to hear that, but I love to learn new things during an interview. Do you ever feel like you have a voice that you could help people who are being bullied? Has that ever come up where you've been able to help someone? Or
I think I probably would have the strongest voice talking to the bullies themselves, because I was there. I understand why they're doing that. I have a passion for people of my generation. It's one of those things that I see my fellow youth, as you would say, and they're so lost nowadays. I mean, most of them don't have an idea of who they are, where they're going, and they're searching for meaning and purpose. And you can't find those apart from God.
Yeah.
Because the world will try to give you. It's like, oh, we have meaning and purpose, and it's just it's false. It's constantly shifting to what they want you to be, and there's no solid ground there.
Exactly.
Only in God will you find meaning and purpose, and because He's your solid rock. So.
And He's one that made you for a purpose.
Yeah, and it's exciting, and speaking of purpose, He gave me purpose, because I always thought, since I was 7 years old, I'm going to be a weatherman. I'm going to be a storm chaser, and I'm going to be just like that guy's in the movie Twister, Oh, my favorite movie ever. But, He's like, okay, well, I'm going to take you storm chasing. He took me storm chasing.
Yeah.
And I was there. Oh, I loved it. It was awesome.
I've never met a storm chaser until I met you. It was pretty cool because it's a little different.
Oh, it's something. I've never met anybody else who does it besides the people that I meet while I'm there.
Yeah, it's a little niche, huh?
Yeah. But, it's one of those things that I never thought I could do it because I had already convinced myself beforehand that it wasn't possible, so I just never had that thought in my mind. And God's like, well, why don't you do it?
Yeah, why not?
And I was like, well, the only thing stopping me is me. And so...
Yeah, all things are possible with God, right?
Definitely. And so he opened the door for it, and
I want to hear more about that. I'm going to cut you off. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. Stay tuned.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Welcome.
You're watching your local television network, TSPN, and now back to Love, Hope, and Faith with Heather Murdoch.
Welcome back to Love, Hope, and Faith. My name is Heather Murdoch, and I'm here with Josh Belmont. And Josh, you're sharing your story, and shared in the first segment that you're a believer, obviously, and how God's changed your life. And you used to be a bully, and we were talking about that. And I asked you off camera if you've ever been able to go back to someone and apologize.
Yeah, actually, there were several people in my younger years that I terrorized and abused, and some of them have permanent physical damage from the things that I did. And I was able to go back and talk to a few of those people after high school and during senior year of high school, and apologize for the things that I did. Of course, they don't act like it was any big deal, but it's something that I have to live with to this day. I just it can be hard sometimes. Those memories come back.
And regrets, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Lord can use, my favorite verse is all things work together for good, or God works all things together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And you're called according to His purpose, and you love Him, and He will work all those things for good. And I just want to ask you, what advice do you have if a parent is dealing with a child who's getting bullied? What should a child who's getting bullied say to a bullier? Or how should they deal with a bullier? And kind of putting you on the spot.
That, I think, the best thing to do is if the person is being bullied, went up to the bully and just wanted to be friends with that person in a very, I say, non-selfish way. As a bully, what I was looking for was respect, but really it was friendship. And you can't make friends if you're terrorizing people.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense. Yeah,
but if you were able to befriend that person and talk to that person about what they're doing and how it affects you on a real level, I think that would really, really speak to them. They didn't have anything like that,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, good. Well, let's move on because we kind of alluded to some of the things you're doing now earlier, but I wanted to go back. You said about you struggled with depression.
Yeah, even as recently as 2012, that's where I finally, I say where God finally helped me overcome that. Emotional problems can be the most devastating, and periodically I'd suffer from depression, and it's like this black cloud that it kind of envelops your mind, and it just feels like this tremendous weight that you have to carry, and your problems seem so huge that you can't get over them, because what you focus on, it becomes larger.
Yes.
And if you focus on your problems, you cycle despair to those problems, and
Yeah.
they become larger and larger.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't seem to break that cycle. So what Jesus told me, he's like, well, faith comes by hearing. So I was trying to break out of the depression, and I was just reading the Word and reading His promises, but they don't seem to have any effect. Like they just were like bouncing off of me, and so I started saying them out loud.
Oh, good.
And,
yeah.
And I just kept doing that, and the more I spoke it, and the more I kept focusing on that, I could feel God just pulling my mind out of the depression, kind of like you would draw a bucket of water out of a well, you know. It just slowly but surely. You don't feel it immediately, because a lot of things in this life you have to kind of, you can't base it on the emotion or the feeling of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you just keep working on it, and then that feeling, that emotion comes in, and he pulled me right out of the depression. And the trick is, I say it's a trick, but the way to get out of it is what you keep your mind focused on.
Yes.
You can either focus on the problems and the bad things, which will overcome your mind and consume you, or you can focus on Jesus, who has all power and authority, and what you focus on becomes larger, and God is so much larger than any problems we can ever deal with.
Exactly.
And so if you focus on God, all your problems just become this, almost like you're looking down on the whole earth, from
that God perspective.
Yeah, that perspective, and everything gets put into place, and He gives you this joy and peace because you know it's all in His plans, and it's exciting.
Well, it reminds me, if you don't mind me sharing a quick story, I also struggled with depression, and He's done such a great work in me as well, replacing those negative thoughts with God's truth, and so I can totally relate to what you're saying. But I remember one time, my kids were, I think my son was like 6 and my daughter was like 8, and we lived in Ione, and they'd go to Ione Elementary School. And during springtime, they said, "Mom, we should start riding our bikes to school." And I said, "Well, that means I'd have to ride the bike too, and drive, ride with you there." But I had not ridden a bike in many years, many years. And I did not have a bike, but my husband had a bike, and so the only bike for me to ride was my husband's, which was a little bit bigger, too big for me, right? So the first morning, we're going to go off, and I'm going to go with them to school.
Yeah.
And I'm going along, they're laughing at me and stuff, and we're having a ball because I look pretty silly on the bike. And we're driving down the sidewalks and all that, riding down the sidewalks. And I'm getting a pretty good clip going. I'm pretty proud of myself. And the kids are a little bit ahead of me. Come on, Mom. Come on, Mom. And I see up ahead, that there's a fire hydrant in the sidewalk, right? Okay, and the sidewalk narrows, and there's also this old rickety yard fence there. So, and then right where that is, there's cracked, kind of uneven cement, right? So it's kind of hard. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go right through that, and it's skinny there, right? And the kids go through no problem, and all I'm focusing on that whole time, I keep looking at the fire hydrant, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to fall, I'm going to run right into it, I'm going to run right into it. What do you think happened?
You ran right into it.
I ran right into it. And I fell, I wrecked off the bike, I skinned my knee. There was the peg pedal when it dug a hole into my ankle. I mean, it wasn't bad, but there was some blood. The kids go, "Oh my gosh, Mom," they dump their bikes and come running over to me, and I'm laughing, and I'm humiliated as all the parents are driving their kids to school, and there I am, and Anyway, it taught me a great lesson, and the lesson is exactly what you just said. That which we focus on, we run right into. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you just said.
Yeah.
I focus on that fire hydrant instead of looking past it to get through it, and I ran right into it. So if we focus on God, what are we going to run into?
God.
It's totally true.
His awesomeness.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that so true? I mean, it was a good real-life example of how what we focus on, we run into.
Yeah, and what you focus on ends up becoming what you believe.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what you believe becomes reality. We have that power to make the things that we believe happen. And if we believe, that we're going to get over the depression, if we really believe it, it'll happen.
Yeah, with God's help,
But if you don't believe it's going to happen, it won't happen.
But I love about your story, I think the key is, yes, those things you just said, but I think the key is replacing those negative thoughts with God's truth.
Yeah.
That's the key. You can't just, I don't think you can just quit a habit. I think you need to replace a bad habit with a good habit. Do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, everybody's got bad habits. You know,
Yeah.
I've got my own bad habits I'm trying to get rid of. But
Yeah.
you know, it's when that habit hits you and it's like, hey, you should do this. Well,
Yeah.
where are you going to focus your mind? Are you going to focus on the habit, or are you going to focus on God? Every time it's a choice.
Exactly.
And if you make the choice to focus on God, eventually that habit isn't going to have as much sway, and eventually you know,
Yeah.
you'll be getting past it.
Totally.
So it's very
That's good.
It's exciting.
So there's hope. There's hope even in depression. No matter where you've been, there's hope in Jesus, and He can handle, like you said, He's bigger than any problem, and He can get us through it. It doesn't mean, though, I think in something you said last night, we were talking on the phone, I think is a key thing, is that just because you become a believer doesn't mean life is easy all of a sudden.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, you know, God has a way of calling you to do things that are a little bit larger than you're able to handle sometimes. But to go to that area, I'd like to go and tell you about what God's called me to do a little bit.
Let's go there, yeah.
After I came back from the storm chasing, and while I was there, I would talk to a bunch of weather guys and found out the weather was not what I was going to do with my life. Math and equations and charts and graphs, and I was like, oh my gosh, the things I hate the most in this world.
Yeah.
And,
You just want to go out there and chase a
yeah.
tornado, but not all the work
I
of
love it, and
Yeah.
I can go back whenever I want. But as for career, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and thus I went back into the cycle of depression again
Okay.
because I was working at a grocery store. I still work there.
Yeah.
It's a job. It's not a career. And so I eventually cried out to God. I was like, God, what do you want me to do with my life? What purpose do you have for me? And he told me, I want you to make Christ-themed movies for non-Christians. I want you to make movies.
Yeah.
It's very,
Awesome.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Have
And
you always been interested in movies?
Yeah, it's crazy. When he said that, I looked back over my whole life, and I realized, even since I was a kid, I had been writing, drawing, you know, watching movies. I mean, our family's hobby is watching movies together. I've always been interested in movies, and I was like, how did I not see this? It's like my eyes are opened. He
Yeah.
has that ability to let us see beyond ourselves sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, all right, God. And he provided me a school to go to the Art Institute down in Sacramento.
Awesome.
And I have about a year left until I graduate. And I've been working on a feature movie for 7 years now. He's been helped me write, and it's fascinating how this came about. But he gave me the inspiration for the movie, and then I have this idea for the scene. That he gives me the idea. This is what was going to happen in this scene, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing, because it fits all these other places in the movie and fixes holes I didn't even know were there. But Lord, I can't write this out because I've never experienced this myself. And this story is about getting over your past. So as I was getting over my past, he's like, okay, well, this scene, you're going to live this out in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And a couple weeks later, that exact set of events would happen in my life. And then I would have the ability to write that scene out, and then he'd give me the next idea for the next scene. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. But I can't write it, and then he'd give me live that section out as well, and all the way through the movie. But as this whole process is going through, he has helped me get over my past at the same time.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
That is so powerful. It's almost like you're going through therapy, or it's
Yeah,
therapeutic
yeah.
at the same time. Yeah.
It was a very awesome experience. So what God's called me to do right now is, for my senior project, is take a scene from that feature movie and to make it as my senior project.
Awesome.
And when he told me that he wanted me to do that, I was like, oh God, I can't do that. It's way, way too big a scale for me. I am the least qualified student to do this. I'm the only student in the school that's never done a narrative piece, never done a story. I've done commercials. And he's like, that's the whole point. I want you to do this because you can't do it on your own.
And we are weak, he is strong.
Exactly. And so he's like, I will provide for you. And he confirmed it by showing me and started providing for me right then and there. He's been providing me awesome crew members and everything I need so far.
Have your actors already all lined up and everything?
Still working on the actors, yeah.
If you need a 9-year-old boy, or 10-year-old boy, my son's a pretty awesome actor.
I'll keep you in mind.
Yeah, good.
I mean, he hasn't provided the location yet, but I mean, everything else, better than I could have dreamed, you know. And so I know that He'll be faithful to provide.
And
Because
to complete it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because He is always faithful to complete the things He starts.
Yeah,
And so
that's so awesome.
I'm very excited about that.
So when can we expect something out?
The short will be completed in September.
Okay.
And then I graduate that same month.
Okay.
So then,
Yeah.
then
Do you have a
wherever
title?
God
Working
goes.
title?
Right now it's Homecoming.
Homecoming,
Which
okay.
is a ironic title.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Good. Okay. Taking a break. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. Stay tuned.
You're watching Amador County's local. You're watching your local television network, TSPN, and now back to Love, Hope, and Faith with Heather Murdoch.
Welcome back to Love, Hope, and Faith. I'm here today with Josh Belmont. So, Josh, you were earlier mentioning the storm chasing. I'm a little bit intrigued with that because I don't know much about that. So, tell me, what's it like to chase a tornado?
Well, it's a really interesting experience. I'll tell you about my first encounter. I flew out to Denver to meet people I've never met before. This company called Silver Lining Tours is out there, and my good friend Roger Hill runs that company. And I meet up with them at the hotel, and then he goes over his battle strategy basically for the week. Basically a very robust version of what he thinks the weather's going to happen for the next week. And then he's like, okay, tomorrow we're going to be in North Dakota for storm chasing. And I'm like, okay. So we drive all day, get up there, spend the night up there, and then the next day, storms pop up. And so you're inside of 11 passenger vans, and there's people in there from all over the world that are there to storm chase, and we all have one thing in common: we're all just nuts about the weather. We love
That's
it.
crazy. Love
And
it.
Roger is very excited, and he just loves his job. And I mean, he's kind of like, you think that somebody that's really, really like famous and like a weather superstar like he is would be unapproachable or hard to get to know. But no, he's like your neighbor. He talked about anything.
So he's well known in these circles. Is
Oh
what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Okay.
And we're going out there, and it's a crazy experience. The storm goes up, and it becomes this huge monster, and it is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. It is such a display of God's just power and beauty all at the same time, and it makes you
How
feel
close are you to it?
about this big. To the storm?
Yeah.
Oh, the storm, you can be underneath it if you want. Just the tornado, you have to watch out for. There's a couple of places in the storm you got to watch out for danger areas. You got to watch out for the tornado, for one. If there's dangerous lightning, like striking the ground and stuff, you don't want to be over there.
Yeah, I would imagine that.
And then the hailstones, usually on the north side. But you try to avoid the dangerous areas. But if you're good, you can slip underneath the storm and you can enjoy it.
So are you in a vehicle or are you on the ground by foot?
So what we do is we drive out and we stop the car or the van if it's a safe area. We get out and we get our cameras out there and we're camping out there. The storm's going by, and then depending on how fast it's moving and where we're located at, we might have to get up and move again a couple times. But it is just an amazing
Adrenaline
experience.
rush, I bet.
It can be. I mean, it makes you feel about this big, and God's power is just awesome, like you've never seen before. Lightning and hailstones. I've seen hailstones this big come down, and tornadoes. And
That could hurt you.
yeah, it missed me by about 6 inches, and you could hear it falling. I was like, "What is this sound?"
Like rocks falling from the
Yeah,
sky.
and you just whistle like straight out of a movie, like a cannonball is coming down, and you're like, "What is?" I'm like looking around, like, "What is that sound?" And then, boom! It lands right next to me and goes 6 inches into the ground. And I'm like,
Whoa.
"Oh, I'm back in that van right so fast." I tell you,
It's crazy. So, okay,
Yeah.
so the movie Twister, we've all seen that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Great movie. And you said I think you said that was your favorite movie. Is that pretty realistic?
no.
No? Okay, it's pretty
No,
Hollywood, huh?
As a storm chaser now, looking back on the movie, as a kid I loved the movie. It was awesome, but as a storm chaser, you look back and it's just so Hollywood. you
Yeah.
know? There's so many things in it. You're like, no, it's not good. But it's one of those things that I get to go out and see a display of God's just awesome power and beauty. And we're talking some of these storms are just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and you can see that, and you're like, what a thing to go see. I mean,
Yeah.
God really does make some awesome things.
Oh yeah. Oh
Definitely.
yeah. Yes, I was reading today, like I shared earlier in the Psalms, and I think Psalm 103. Anyway, I'm not going to read it now, but it talked to it just going through all the things that God creates. You know, the raging rivers and the mountains and the storms and the cattle with all the food that they get to eat, and just all the things that He makes happen in this world. You know, that just we take for granted.
Yeah.
You know, like for an example, I wouldn't. You know, I mean, I think I love storms. I love, you know, but I never really had a passion to go to do what you're doing
Yeah.
or what you've done. And so I think it's so cool how God makes us so unique, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and I see God's glory in other ways, and you see it in the storm like that. That's
Yeah, and you know they're all different, and you know they're highly structured. And as Roger is convinced, he's seen probably more storms than anybody alive. He's convinced that they're living organisms. That they will do anything they can to keep themselves alive.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know, that's God's power and glory right there.
Yeah,
you know?
that is crazy.
And it's just, I love it. It's good.
So are you still into that, or no? Is it
Oh
something?
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I plan on going back here probably next year in June.
Do you have some pretty cool pictures?
Oh yeah.
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 Cool. Do you share them on your Facebook?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to check those out. Good. So okay, so that's one of your passions. But
Mm-hmm.
do you feel what do you feel is the vision and mission for your life? Is that it?
Storm chasing?
Yeah.
No, although it is definitely a source of inspiration. I kind of like to draw from a lot. No, the vision, the purpose that God has given me for my life is to make Christ-themed movies for non-Christians. So what happens, let's say, after I graduate, I'll probably go down to Los Angeles and get a job down there. But you know, it's like going into the heart of darkness in this country. That's where all the media is broadcasted, and there's so much darkness down there. People don't know what's you know, what life is and who God is, and it can be a very overwhelming experience. And but God's given me such a passion to reach out to people through the media. Media is a very powerful tool
Very.
to reach people. You know, movies. You know, you realize the more you get into movies and media, you realize the subtle pulls they can have on people. They don't even realize themselves. Every movie, everything that is broadcasted has a message behind it.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that my movies have a message of hope and
Amen.
and love and you know, and who God is.
Yes.
So his passion, his passion he's given me is not to make Christian movies, because I feel that Christian movies only reach Christians.
Yes.
And
I hear you. I agree.
So I need to reach non-Christians. I need to make not a Christian movie, but a movie that has very strong Christ themes in it.
Right. Redemption,
And-
hope.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so that non-Christians will go watch them.
And be inspired and be touched.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Well, I don't know if you know, but I spent a lot I guess it was about 2.5 years in Hollywood myself,
Oh, yeah?
pursuing an acting career. I mean, I'm 42 years old, so this is when I was 20. But so I know when you say the heart of darkness, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I'm not saying everyone there is dark,
No.
but there's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, for young people who go there with stars in their eyes, hoping to make it and be discovered and be famous, because usually that's what you want when you go there. You know, you're looking for something, which I
Yeah.
realize now I was looking for God. I didn't know Him then, and it takes advantage of people like that, and it consumes you
Yeah.
into that darkness.
You have
it
to
can.
be very, very strong with
Very,
your faith
yes.
and commitment to God in order to withstand that. And it's one of those things that God's working on me. He's telling me, He's like, you need to be like a fortress,
Yeah.
you know, against evil and that seductive influences they have.
Yeah, that's a
And
good word for it. Seductive.
because it tries to pull you in, and in order to really take a stand for God in the heart of darkness, you know, you need to. There's a contrast there. You know, the darker the place, the brighter God's light's going to shine.
Yeah, totally.
And
Good
so,
point. Good point.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I mean, really look at what's on TV. I mean, even like on prime time, where